I've just done a video on taking the 1.9 water boxer engine out of the other van, and it's a pretty similar procedure to taking the Aircooled out the proper way. But I thought I'd do a really quick one on the Aircooled engine because it's super simple, really, much more simple than the water-cooled one because there's no water pipes and stuff basically. First things first, disconnect your battery. So you don't want to be shorting things out while you're playing around with the starter motor wires and the alternator wires and stuff. So we'll just pop the negative terminal off. So first thing I've disconnected is the accelerator cable. On this one it's on an adapter I made. It comes through the side of the engine. Typically it's on the other side, it comes through a hole on the other side. But this particular carb, it's on the wrong side effectively. So that's disconnected, so the accelerator is not connected anymore. And then we've got the fuel line in, which is this one here, comes through the back of the bodywork. And the fuel line return, which goes to back to the tank. Attached to your carb or your filter somewhere is the vacuum hose, so you want to disconnect it from the valve which goes to the front of the van. Because this engine's running an electric fuel pump rather than the original mechanical one, it was attached on the side here. Basically I've just taken it off the side, popped it on top of the engine, disconnected the electrics to it, and job's a good one. This engine's using a single vac advance and coil setup rather than the booster box and everything else. So basically the only thing to disconnect really, which attached, was the live feed which fed the coil and also fed the automatic choke and the cut-off for the fuel. You may have your coil or booster box and stuff over here, so that'll need disconnecting wherever it attaches to the engine. On the back of the alternator I've unplugged it from there, it's just pulled straight out, and there's a secondary earth which on this one connects to a loom under here, which is a bit odd. And that's not going to go through the tinware, so I'll have to figure that one out. I have to disconnect it elsewhere. So at the back of the engine, above the original mechanical fuel pump, it's a starter motor, and this wire here go through the back of the tinware, which I can't get the plug out. Is connected to the 13mm nut, and that should come off nice and easy. However, yours may be routed differently. At the front of the engine, so that can be moved out of the way so it doesn't bash or bend on anything. Next, I've removed the two 17mm nuts which hold the engine to the gearbox. So there's one down there and one down here, nice and easy. Crawl underneath, on the front of the gearbox, on the mount you've got a bolt which goes straight through. You're just loosening that bolt so that the gearbox can be turned down, dropped down, and it will twist on the bolt rather than actually damaging the rubber and twisting on the rubber. That'll do, pig, that'll do. We're going to drop the oil next. Now I'm dropping the oil out of the engine, firstly because it's going on a pallet, this engine, and it has to be drained of oil before they go on pallets generally. And also, when you're dropping it out, you'll probably find all the engine oil runs out the back pipe. Next I'm going to remove the oil filler tube just to make sure it doesn't get damaged when we drop the engine down. On the 2 litre CUs there's a 10mm nut which holds it on, and it's just down in between the pulley wheel and the filler neck down there. So it's a little bit tricky to get to. The part here where the nut clamps onto the tube is kind of splayed out, if you can see, so it's splayed out over time. So it was a little bit on the loose side, so I actually added a Jubilee on mine as well, just to make sure it was on there nice and tight. Depending what carb setup you've got on yours, this is a single 32-36 setup. You may want to remove it. It just basically makes the engine a lot lower profile, so when we drop it down it just makes it a bit easier to drag out the back of the van. And say it's a 5-minute job just to pop it off. Just making sure the van's in neutral, so make sure there's no tension in the linkage. So my engine is now supported on a jack. I've used a thin slither of wood just to make sure we don't damage under the engine at all. And now we can go to the cradle or the engine bar and undo these 2 nuts and bolts at each side just to release that. Now be really careful when you do this. You do tend to find that when you release them, the cradle will drop on one side or the other and the engine will twist a bit. So just keep your fingers well out of the way in case it does that. Like so. So the engine is now literally rocking and rolling. So all we have to do now is drop it down on the jack so it's close to the ground, and we're going to need to release the bottom 2 bolts which connect the engine and the gearbox together, and we should be able to slide it off without it dropping too far. Next, you want to crawl under your van and get your scissor jack out if you've got a spare one, and just support your gearbox. It's just to stop it from dropping any further, so you're not hanging all the weight on the axles and stuff, and say just to support it. If you don't have a spare scissor jack, don't worry too much. You can use a couple of house bricks and a chocker wood or something. It's just for support. Once you're happy that's nice and supported, you want to move, and you've got the last two nuts here to do, one at each side, which is the engine to gearbox nuts, which is a 17mm. Number 2. Right, now it should be just a case of sliding the engine backwards off the gearbox, so the first motion shaft's disconnected from the flywheel at the front, and we should be able to just drop it down. Fingers crossed. Yep. Here comes Cockily. Damn it. I think we have to jack the back of the van up a bit just to get the engine out the back. One engine out. Job's a good one. Hopefully you found this helpful if you're removing your 2-litre CU. If, however, you found this video completely by mistake, looking for how to remove a different engine, I've also done the 1.6 CT, which basically it's the same procedure as this one, and I've done the Waterboxer 1.9 DJ engine as well. So I'll link to those videos at the end of this one. Cheers guys, take care, bye bye.